Hello everyone, my name is Dorian and welcome to Sebring. We have the 12 hours here this week and IMSA, so I decided to do a track guide with the LMP2. I'm just going to show you guys the lap real quick and then we're going to go over it corner by corner. If you enjoy it, leave a like, and if you want to see more racing videos and track guides, then subscribe to the channel. Also let me know in the comments what you think about it. That's it. See you guys on the track. Okay, so we're coming up to turn number one. Let's look for a braking point. It's kind of hard to spot, but there's this pole here that kind of disappears from my field of view, and as soon as it does, I'm gonna start braking. I think it's this guy right here, but technically, as the one closer to you kind of disappears, that's when you know you should start braking. So as it disappears from my field of view, that's when I'm gonna start. Another indication could be the kink here in the barrier. Right before it is when you want to start to turn in and brake as we reach it. Again, these are things that are hard to spot. At this point, I'm looking for the corner. I'm trying to find the apex already. So it's kind of hard to spot. You're going to have to experiment a little bit. Now I'm peaking, I would say around 60%. And very quickly releasing the brakes. And you're going to see that throughout this track. You cannot stay on the brakes for too long at any corner. Trail braking, downshifting into fourth. I'm staying in fifth for the straight, by the way. Downshifting into fourth. And I'm going to start accelerating back up again as I can spot this guy right here. This cone is going to signal where the apex is. I'm going to put my left side of the car beyond this yellow line. And try to hug the wall as much as I can when I'm close to this little cone here. Now I'm squeezing the throttle, I'm not slamming it at any point, so you can see I'm starting very gradually around 35% and just squeezing more and more out of it. I'm not in any particular rush just to slam the throttle because I want to prevent the almost inevitable understeer you'll get on the exit here. There's a few more kilometers an hour you can carry here, and a good indication is if you're riding the curb on the exit, means you carried a good amount of speed on the exit here. Now, looking for another braking point, we're going to brake right at the 3 or slightly after it. So, yeah, right around here. Peaking very high, 90%, but as you can see, immediate release. So I'm already releasing it. I'm not staying 90% for too long at all. And right before this cone, I'm already going to go into trail braking. So I'm releasing very quickly, trying to carry as much speed as I can into this corner. It's better to brake very softly into this corner than to try to decrease as much speed as you can. For the basic reason is because that you have so many nuances with the steering here. You're not really going straight. Even before the last cone here, I'm already beginning to turn to the left, so I need as little braking as I can to make sure I don't lock up the wheels. Trail braking and looking for a late apex, which is right here. And I'm already gonna go back to the power as soon as I know I'm about to kind of get to it. So as soon as I get to it, back on the power, squeezing it very gently, second gear, 30, 40, 50, 60, straighten out the wheel back to 100, and straighten up the car to the right. Now, this corner is kind of a menace. It's very tricky. I'm looking to put the car next to this, adjacent to this curb, and as soon as this curb kind of rounds out as I cross it, I'm going to start the trail brake, peaking at around 40% and immediately trail braking. Again, second gear. You don't want first at any point here. Trail braking, and I'm looking again for a very late apex, which is right around here. You can see I'm already back on the power. Now, there's an element to the engine of this car that you have to keep in mind. All the power is at the top end. So if you've ever driven a Honda Civic, you know that you have to keep the revs up for it to actually accelerate. So it's actually very similar. I can't believe I'm comparing an LMP2 to a Honda Civic, but it's very similar. So basically, I'm building up some RPM. The car is not really going to accelerate because the RPM is very low. I'm just building it up and getting it ready, putting some weight on the back, and squeezing it 50, 60, 70%. And I'm looking for the flat part of this curb. So all of this part, the high part, you don't want to touch it at any cost. You want to make sure you align the car correctly to the flat part of the curb. And as I do, I'm going to straighten out the wheel. Do have to catch it a little bit. And back to 100%. Using this curb on the exit, not a problem. From this point on, I'm just going to hug it the whole way through and line the car up to the left for the next braking point. We're going to brake right at the 3. Maybe a little bit after. No, right at the 3. Braking, peaking it very, very high and releasing pretty quickly. This is like the hardest braking point pretty much. And all the way into first gear. You want to turn in late here. You definitely don't want to turn in early, because that's going to compromise your exit quite a lot. You want to grab it as a late apex. So trail braking into it. And I'm looking for a late apex. Don't want to clip the dirt too much. Maybe just a tiny bit. And very smoothly, very gradually, I'm back on the power. We're in first gear. Again, building up the RPM before I really have to accelerate. So it seems like I'm very early on throttle, but the reason for that is because I know the car's not going to push because it doesn't have a lot of power at this RPM. So I'm waiting for the kind of torque to build up a little bit. Squeezing more and more out of it to around, I don't know, 55%. Straightening out the wheel and squeezing it back to 100%. Have to catch it just a tiny bit. It's always going to happen, pretty much always going to happen with this car on the low speed corners. Taking a nice short route throughout. And we are looking for a braking point here. So it's going to be right between, like the halfway point between the 4 cone and the 3 cone. Right around here. By the time I reach the 3 cone, I'm already full brakes. Slamming it, 90%, releasing it, down into second. You can use first here. And in fact, it could be a little bit faster. I prefer second because it's way more consistent. The exit is very bumpy. It's very hard to put the power down. And if you use second, it's just going to make your life easier. You basically lose half a tenth, up to a tenth maybe, but you gain a lot of consistency in return. So there's a trade-off there for endurance, for, you know, any sort of race. I will definitely use second gear, maybe even for qualifying, depending on the track conditions. Trying to release it. I want to turn in late here. Definitely don't try to turn in early because it does shut in on you on the exit. Trail braking all the way to the halfway point, and I'm going to start accelerating early because the RPM again is very low, trying to build up the revs. As you can see, very bumpy, very hard to put the power down. I'm just building up some revs, only now back to 100% as the wheel is almost straight. And at this point, you're going to climb the RPM range, and you're going to have a lot of power coming to the rear wheels at this point. So the back end is going to want to kick out, and you can see throughout this sector, I'm making all these little micro corrections, just catching the rear end, not letting it slide too much because it's very easy to do that. And we're through. Now, looking for a braking point here. First of all, there's the line that you want to take. So I like taking, like, staying right in the middle of the track. There's two reasons for that. One, it's a better defensive line. It's very easy to dive bomb because it's a wide part of the track. So if you stay sort of in the middle, you're signaling to the guy behind, look, I'm ready for you, you know, and might make him hesitate and help you keep your position. And the second thing is there's all this rubber is right here. So I want to brake diagonally to the outside with a straight wheel so I can just carry the line from the middle very easily. I don't have to do anything abrupt right before the braking point. I'm going to brake right at the 3 cone. And I would say around 80% pressure. Down into second gear. Releasing it. Again, turning in late. Definitely using the camber in the road right here. It's going to suck you in and allow you to carry a lot of speed. For some reason, the car was kind of 4-wheel drifting here. That's actually the first time that happened to me. I'm not entirely sure why that happened. Could be that the rear tires were a bit too hot, and that's why it occurred. And I'm looking to accelerate right at the apex, or right before it. Again, being smooth, second gear. Squeezing it all the way to 100%. And it's all about throttle control in this car, and especially on this track. So you really have to keep in mind, have like a very light foot. Using the curb on the way out, and we're through. From this point on, just taking a nice short route, clipping both these apexes. And the 3 cone is your friend. That's our braking point. I'm gonna brake very hard into third gear. You can see I'm releasing it very quickly here because I'm trying to carry as much speed as I can. It's a very high speed corner. So into third gear. And what I've done here, I turned in a loop. Maybe slow down a bit too much, maybe turned in a little too early, so it made me clip this curb quite a lot. Wasn't a big deal. The car didn't really get too upset, but sometimes it can be. And if you clip it a little bit more, you can get a penalty. So maybe with a lighter car, brake a little bit later, maybe turn in a tiny bit later, so you don't have to clip it. If you don't clip it, you don't lose any time. If you stay close to this apex, it's going to be the same pace pretty much. Accelerating back out again. Smoothly. Even though we're in third gear, I'm not going to slam it. I'm going to take it all the way to 50% before I go back to 100. And from this point on, you can see I'm hugging the curb on the inside, and I'm going to start lifting to assist the car in the rotation. I'm going to help the car rotate a little bit because I want to open up the next corner as much as I can. So I'm just hugging this curb, lifting. And as soon as this curb runs out, you can see I'm lined up correctly. And as soon as I'm lined up correctly, the curb should run out. That's a good timing here. And I'm going to start braking. So around, I would say 35%, and downshifting into second. You can take it in third. In fact, in really warm conditions, I would try to take it in third. Could be a little more stable on the exit, but you will get more understeer in return. So you will have to compromise your entry. Now, into second, trying to turn in very early here. It's not late apex. I would call this an early apex for sure. Pretty much right around here is where I want to put my right front and my nose edges. And I'm already accelerating. You can see I'm already back on the power very early. Again, building up some RPM, putting some weight on the front, on the rears, because the exit here is quite tricky. The car has a tendency to snap. So you want to kind of prepare the tires and let them know that you're going to ask for more and more out of them. You don't want to surprise them. Mounting the curb just a little bit. You don't want to mount it too much to a point where the right front is across the curb, because that's going to make the exit very snappy. Squeezing the throttle, and from around 60 to 100% in one go. Using, you can see a little catch in here, and using all of the curb on the way out, and we're through. Let's go to sunset. Let's go. Okay, so turning in before I brake. That's the one thing you gotta remember. I'm gonna start to turn in. Let's see where. I would say the 2 cone. Yeah, a little bit before the 2 cones when I'm gonna start to turn in. Taking a diagonal line to the outside. So we have the white line here. It's a very good brake marker for you. Slamming the brakes to around, I don't know, 70%, but immediately releasing it. I'm trying to carry as much speed as I can into the entry. Letting the car go wide, across the white line to the left of the white line. Downshifting into third. Don't put it in second here, it's pointless. Taking a wide approach. I'm not trying to hug this apex too much because there's a nasty bump right on the inside that you want to try to avoid. And you can see I'm already back on the power at a very, very early point, and that kind of cost me on the exit. Not as much with time, but with tires. It cost me a lot of tires on the exit. I was kind of offline. You'll see it in a second. But I am being very smooth, very gradual, but very patient with the throttle. As you can see, this is my apex, so I'm intentionally missing it. Because if I'll be, I don't know, a meter to the right here, the car's going to bounce like crazy. Won't be able to put any power down, might even spin. 50% throttle at this point, and again, squeezing more and more out of it, being very patient. And I would say at around this point, I'm going to go back to 100%. As you can see, the rubber is very clearly right around here. So this is your racing line. And I went a bit wider than that. So I had to scrub the tires on the exit. Again, didn't really cost me too much time, but for an endurance race, for any race, I would try to keep it a little bit tighter and just accelerate a little bit later. That's it. That's going to give us a 145.850. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you want to see more racing videos and track guides, then subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments what you think. It's always awesome to see your responses. That's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.